For more on what we're likely to see at the two sessions, we're joined now by Sourabh Gupta. He's the Senior Asia-Pacific International Relations Policy Specialist at the Institute for China-America Studies. Good to see you this evening. Firstly, what aspects of Chinese economic policy do you think global leaders specifically will be watching out for?
Hello, Sally. With regard to what they will be looking out for, I think primarily is how China plans to move forward with its own economy in terms of stimulating it so as to move it out from the economic funk that it has found itself in. Much of that is, of course, property-created problems in the economy, and the Chinese side is working to kind of remediate it and work itself out to a more consumption-centered economy, which will propel not just the Chinese economy forward, but also the global economy forward. But this has been an area of intense interest, including among the United States, as to how China moves forward with its own economy in terms of a structural transformation, both short-term and longer terms. And over and above that, I think from an international economic perspective, I think there will be eyes on how China is going to continue to assist with some of the debt issues that we see in the international system, particularly many of the debt workout issues that many of the low and developing countries are facing at this point of time.
And what about, new technologies that play a huge role globally, for example, AI and energy transition, so new electric cars contributing to that market, expanding that market. Do you think that those are the kinds of things that will be kind of at the cornerstone of foreign policy when it comes to the two sessions around economy?
Yes, it will, but I think that is an idea, a theme which we will see over the next decade or so. It's not just about this. Obviously, China is at the forefront, cutting edge on a lot of green technologies, and many of these green technologies will enable a more cleaner and greener growth in many developing countries. And as many of these developing countries themselves have budget shortfalls, they will be looking to efficient Chinese technologies to get them to hit both their anti-poverty targets as well as their green targets. And so this is going to be a theme for a long time going forward. At this point of time, of course, where China goes with its own EV sector at home and in developed country markets, I think, is the interesting thing to watch at this point of time. Developing countries are still a little bit down the line, but that having been said, I mean, EVs are not the only area where China is ramping up production and scale in green technologies, wind turbines, et cetera, China, photovoltaics. And so for many of these countries, and for the Belt and Road Initiative also, which is a kind of a platform for cooperation with these countries, I think they will be encouraged to see China making progress in making strides in these areas, and at some point of time in the near future, cooperating with these developing countries to help their own green transitions.
And it comes at a really important time. It's the last two sessions to be held before the US election. How does this year's presidential race here in the US play into the sessions, do you think?
China wants to show that it is a contributor to global stability, that it is a pillar of global stability, that it does not want to see volatility in the international environment. China understands that it is going to, at some level, become political football within the U.S. election campaign. But I think what China rightly wants to project is that it stands as a rock of stability and willing to contribute and cooperate with anybody, a small country or a major country, in helping stabilize the world and creating prosperity in the world. And I think from that perspective, I think China has already shown, vis-a-vis the elections in Taiwan, how China has taken a very measured approach on that China is trying to project that message. And I think that becomes important in the context of the US election, because US and China have managed to get themselves onto a platform which is more stable. And China is saying, we can extend this cooperation and the stability if all parties would allow that progress to happen. So I think from that context, in that capacity, China the China factor plays into the US election.
So in regards to promoting stability and the conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine, how do you think these conflicts will impact discussions in terms of China's foreign policy goals? Will it be focused on finding a peaceful resolution, or will it be China stepping back from these conflicts?
Yeah, China is not stepping back anywhere from flashpoints or conflict theaters. China's role has been to lend its good offices, particularly vis-a-vis countries with which the West doesn't necessarily have the best of ties. And China serves as an intermediary, as a platform, as a facilitator to communicate messages and try to find where countries can come onto a common platform. Remember, China's foreign policy beyond its immediate neighborhood is generally non-interventionist. And non-interventionism also means that China has limited equities in some of these flashpoint issues. To the extent that China can bring its influence to bear, it will bring its influence to bear, but it cannot solve problems that is for other people to solve. And it is not going to, on behalf of the West, spoil its relationships with some of these countries, say with Iran or with the Russians. What China is willing to do is lend its good offices, and when there might be a moment when all sides can come to the table, China might be in a position to push, give a little nudge to its own, to say the Russians or the Iranians, to come up to the negotiating table with a constructive proposal. So that's where China comes in on these flashpoint issues beyond its immediate neighborhood. And I think it's a responsible policy. China doesn't aggravate conflicts. It wants to be a contributor to resolving conflicts. But at the same time, China understands in certain conflicts, maybe the Qataris or the Turks are better positioned to parlay their influence than China is. And China is fine with that and wants to play that role.
All right, Sourabh Gupta, really appreciate your insight. Thank you for your time.